So we come to the Ten Commandments themselves today, this central text that there are really endless ways to approach this and to learn from this. I want to focus in on a particular line of thought that kind of unifies this with some of the larger story, focusing in on that command that says, don't take the name of the Lord in vain. We'll get a chance to come at this again when we get to Deuteronomy, because the Ten Commandments, the list shows up again there. But for now, let's jump into Exodus chapter 20. Exodus 20, 1 through 17. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to my thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall do no work, you, your son, your daughter, your male servants, your female servants, your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land, and that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. Okay, as we said, there's so many different ways to go about this. I want to focus in, for the last year or so, this has been fascinating for me and has really shaped a lot, but I'm going to focus in actually starting on this commandment, verse 7. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. What does that actually mean? It's deeper and more profound than simply make sure you don't use Jesus as a swear word, which I agree we should not do. This has really been helped by a scholar, Carmen Imes, who wrote a book, Bearing God's Name. I'll put it in the show notes, and I want to definitely give a shout out to her. So we're going to get to this, but some observations to get back to this is there's a lot going on here that bring us all the way back to Genesis chapter 1, to the original creation story itself. And so there's a lot even here. Why should we not make? He talks about not making a carved image, a likeness of anything that's been created. And instantly our mind should go back to Genesis chapter 1, where God makes humans in his likeness, in his image. Why should we not make an idol, a carved image, to represent God in the world? Because God has already done that. We are supposed to be the image of God. Nothing else will do. And so there's already, if you're reading this as an ancient reader, you're immediately thinking of Genesis chapter 1. Then it goes even further, right? He roots the Sabbath. Why should we take a rest every 7 days? And he roots it back in creation itself. Again, in Genesis chapter 1, God works for 6 days, but on the seventh day he rested. And in the same way, we should rest every seventh day. So all of this is kind of centering us back to Genesis chapter 1. And this is again where it takes us back to this in particular. What does it mean to take the name of the Lord your God in vain? Here's a proposition, and I might be making a few leaps because of time, but basically to be an image bearer is almost synonymous with taking on God's name. Let me explain. So this connects to several other passages, the way that God describes his relationship with Israel in several places. Actually, just a few verses down from in chapter 20, you could look at Exodus 20, verse 24, for instance. But God talks about placing his name on the people, in the city, in the midst of the people. So Jerusalem is a place where God has placed his name. His people are the people upon which he has placed his name. There's a longer discussion we could have, but you could look up Exodus 28 as well. This is the description of the high priest and the The garments of the high priest are really a way to link Genesis chapter 1 with Israel. So the high priest is robed in a way that says he is the emblematic image bearer. And because he's a priest, it's this liturgy, the religion, the symbol of the high priest is that he is showing to God's people what all of them are supposed to do. They are all supposed to be bearing God's name, being his image bearers in the world. And on the high priest's forehead in chapter 28, it talks about they write the name holy to the Lord, holy to Yahweh, which really means set apart, belonging to Yahweh, set apart and belonging to Yahweh. He is showing in symbolic form what it means to take the name of the Lord. And this, again, why am I bringing all this together? It's kind of a new way for me to understand how do all of these 10 commandments flow together, and I think for me more and more center in on verse 7 itself. What it means, and this is the phrase that Carmen Imes gives us, but she talks about basically what this is a command is to represent God well. When we take the name of the Lord, if God has placed his name on our city, on our people, on our church, and on us in particular, we are, like the high priest is showing us in symbolic form, all of us are supposed to be holy, set apart, belonging to Yahweh. We are taking the name of the Lord. He has chosen us. He has placed his name on us. And to not take that in vain means we actually represent him well. When we don't represent him well, when we treat others harshly, when we commit sin, when we rebel against God in our pride, all of the different ways we know. We can think of all the different ways where we fail to represent God well. But to take the name of the Lord specifically means God has placed his name on us by grace alone, and so we should go out in the world like the high priest, like the image bearer of Genesis 1, like those original humans were called to do, and we're supposed to represent him well in the world, bringing his beauty, his goodness, and following him faithfully in the world. Well, I would be curious to hear how you respond to this idea. Maybe this is a new way of coming at the 10 Commandments in particular. But really, for me, it flips it all around, because for so many years I would read the 10 Commandments and all the laws as here's a list of rules, and I want to make sure I don't break them so that I don't get in trouble. And that's one way to come at this. But what if it's more outward, missional focused than all that? What if it's God saying, I have placed my name on you, and I want you to represent me well to the world? Then following the commandments is more proactive. It's actually a way for me to say, I want to honor God, and I want to bear witness to the goodness and glory and amazing qualities of God by serving him well. And so we go out bearing God's name, no longer in vain, but by representing him and who he is to the world.